whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people. Whose car are we gonna take?
Happy Friday. This is the Nikki Medoro Show, live on YouTube every weekday starting at noon Pacific or anytime, because that's the way YouTube works. We're going to be talking some Bay Area traffic in just a moment. The San Francisco Chronicle's Ricardo Cano or Cano? I'll have to ask him. He's been dissecting this idea that I don't know who's asking for this, where basically we would be charged for every mile that we drive on Bay Area highways, side streets, possibly. I don't know. He's going to give us all the details, and whether or not this is actually going to get more people to go into the office or friggin' leave the Bay Area. So he's coming up in about 10 minutes or so you won't want to miss that conversation regarding one idea to fix Bay Area congestion. You guys know what I think is an instant fix. Stop having so many damn people go into the office. I know offices and cities don't like that, but that's an idea. Of course, we're keeping an eye on this crazy storm. There's still time. I have some pictures, but if you have some crazy storm pics, rain pics, snow pics, either email them to me, thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com, and we'll throw them up there because it was nuts overnight with all the rain. In about a half hour or so, we will be joined by Kathleen Quinn Votaw. Now, she is the CEO of this recruiting firm called TalentTrust, and she'll be weighing in on this jobs report. Job report looks good. Doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be good news for us regarding the Fed and raising interest rates, but she's a recruiter, so she'll talk about how this jobs report kind of plays into job recruitment. So if you're looking for a job, if you know somebody that's looking for a job, you won't want to miss that conversation coming up in about a half hour or so. This one story I'm going to squeeze in. I wanted to talk about it yesterday. You know those little free libraries that are in neighborhoods? They're so cute. Of course, San Francisco has a San Francisco, that whole idea. And so we'll get into that as well. It is Friday. And so I like to do my Friday food. Full disclosure, I'm going to order it while I'm on air because I wanted it to be hot, and because it's supposed to be a cozy Friday food, and because we have so many interviews in the first part of the show. So we're going to push Friday food to the second half of the show, and I'm going to have some chicken tikka masala. I'm really looking forward to that. There's a new TikTok trend. It's extremely dangerous, and of course it has to do with drinking. And we take drinking and 20-year-olds or even younger. Sometimes that just is a deadly combination. So we'll touch on that. Also, salt. We have a huge salt problem. I'm going to add my son to this. I have to watch my son. Loves salt, and he is not alone. And this crazy headline out of the Washington Post. We have a huge salt problem. Millions will die without action. And of course, this is around the world, so we'll touch on that. It is the Friday before the Oscars. Unfortunately, Tim Sika is having some personal issues, so he will not be on with us today. Unfortunately, I was not able to snag anybody else, but Kim and I can kind of go through it. And of course, we could do a recap on Monday as well. And remakes, are they ever good? Because there's a big name actor making a remake that I don't know who was really asking for all of that. And so, of course, we'll touch on that as well. But before we get into any of that, please click the thumbs up button right there, right at the bottom of your screen. Click the thumbs up button, shows YouTube that you love the show. Also, our super chat is live. Now, yeah, Google takes its cut. And I know that some of you've reached out to me and you would prefer to do PayPal, which is fine. But the super chat is live if you want to have your comment read during the show. And of course, during the replay as well, you can donate. Just look for that $, and that's a way to donate. But the best way, of course, is to become a Medorable and join the Cool Club and donate to our Patreon. It's a monthly subscription. Just go to thenikkimedoroshow.com. Consider donating to our Patreon. We get more of that money directly to myself and to Kim McAllister. So again, thenikkimedoroshow.com is the best way to donate to our Patreon and just kind of give us that consistent monthly money. And then PayPal, of course, is always up and running and an option for you. If you like PayPal, the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com is how you do that. And then, of course, we have the merchandise and the shop up and running, the NikkiMedoroShop.com. And I just really appreciate all your guys' help. And yes, I feel like we're going to get into Bay Area traffic in just a minute when Richard Cano with the San Francisco Chronicle joins us. Randy writes in, though, nothing is going to affect traffic in the Bay Area. It's just another way to extract money from people living here. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where my question, and I'll be talking to Richard about this in just a moment, is we pay for these roads. Now we have to pay for them again. And when does it end? Was it this week? I think it was this week. We were seeing how much the toll prices go up. Obviously, it's kind of dynamic pricing. If there's more of a backup on the freeway, the price goes up. And there was one stretch where it was like over $10. And who's going to be able to pay these roads? Or pardon me, who's going to be able to pay these tolls every day? You know, I live here in the South Bay in San Jose. And I always just say I love it because I don't have to cross any bridges to get to San Francisco. I take 101 or 280 or even 880. And I don't have to pass any tolls. Well, 880, I have to take the bridge over. But yeah, just one way. I could take the other way home and not have to pay a toll. So there's ways of me getting around without paying tolls. Well, now those opportunities are shrinking because of all of these toll roads. And how fair is this? Well, let's ask the man who's doing some awesome reporting on this. Ricardo Cano is with the San Francisco Chronicle. Ricardo, Cano, am I saying it right? Which way is it?
Cano works great.
Cano works great. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for joining us. I love your article, although I'll just be completely honest, it pisses me off. One plan to fix Bay Area traffic, of course, is it's an idea to put a toll on the region's highways. You outline in your article a number of concepts and what they're kind of debating. And this is not going to happen immediately, so not everybody get all upset about it. But what are some of the concepts? Lay them out for us of what it could actually look like.
Yeah, so to set the table here, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, it's the Bay Area's transportation planning body. They're conducting a 2-year study that they're calling the Next Generation Freeway Study. And the premise of this effort is, by 2050, the Bay Area's freeways are going to be chock full with traffic congestion, reaching unbearable levels compared to what we were used to in 2019 before the pandemic. And so, it's still a study that's in progress. But the news that came out this week was planners unveiled what they're calling these 3 conceptual pricing strategies that would get people out of driving single occupancy cars and either drive less or take public transit, and that is having a per mile toll to drive on Bay Area highways. There's still a lot of questions that aren't fully answered. We don't know the scope of the tolling, but these conceptual pricing strategies kind of show that it could encompass I-580, 280, 880, 80, basically every major Bay Area freeway, and it could go even further, right? It could include tolling on surrounding arterials. There's no sense of what that actually entails, and planners involved in the study acknowledge that it's perplexing to think right now of how that would actually be enforced. But the response to that story and that article has been pretty fascinating. Obviously, a lot of folks are in your camp who are reading what is being proposed and just really being upset about the idea of
Yes.
having to pay to drive on freeways. But I've also heard from some folks who who really believe in trying to reach the state's climate goals, who are saying, we should have been doing this yesterday. So there is a variance in the reception so far, but the public outreach that planners have done so far is there's some hostility for sure.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this though. Okay, so they want the tolls because there's so much congestion, right? But at the same time, what is the alternatives they're thinking people are going to take? Because carpool lanes didn't do it, right? I mean, we still see a ton of people driving by themselves. Obviously, we have the express lanes that are growing all over. Is public transportation a viable alternative for people who either don't want to or cannot afford to pay per mile every time they drive somewhere?
That's what this whole thing hinges on, right? Is that there's going to be robust public transit alternatives, and some of the volunteers who are part of a committee at the MTC advising, the actual folks who will make a decision on this, have said, if you enact this policy, it's going to piss off a lot of people who drive if you're not providing, adequate alternatives for public transit. So, these strategies could potentially pay for, express like bus service. 10-minute frequencies is what planners have kind of billed would be one of the investments, but right now it's a difficult picture for public transit in the region. Public transit everywhere, saw large declines in ridership across the country, but it's particularly pronounced here in the Bay Area because a lot of people are working from home or doing hybrid work where you're riding BART 2-3 days a week compared to 5 days before the pandemic.
Well, then that begs the question, Ricardo, if you want to convince people to go back into the office, which cities like San Francisco want to do because it helps the economy, this is the last thing you should be promoting, because nobody wants to go into the office if it's going to cost them an arm and a leg every time they travel. For me, I'm thinking if you want to reduce congestion on the roads, have people work more from home. I know probably office building owners don't want to hear that, but why not go that way? Is that even being mentioned in this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly been impacts that working from home has had on the region. San Francisco's downtown recovery is last in the nation, and BART's ridership recovery is behind other peer agencies across the country, like the New York subway, Chicago, Boston, LA. And so, I think it's pretty clear that, this telework phenomenon has really kind of just, profoundly changed the way that we move around the region. Even traffic congestion right now in the Bay Area, as of last year was still, you could see, you obviously anecdotally can see notable differences if you're driving on, say, 580 on Monday compared to, Wednesday. And the reason for that is, people are mostly, if they're going to the office, they're doing it Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays. You see that in the BART ridership data. And, the congestion has not returned to pre-pandemic levels. Traffic volumes have, the Bay Bridge, traffic is, above 90%. But these are all kind of trends that are hardening. And so it's interesting to see if that's going to influence, whatever comes out of this study. Again, this is a very early study. If there's going to be any changes implemented, it's not going to be until at least 2035. And the folks at the MTC acknowledge, we're looking into this, but nothing is set in stone. So
yeah. I mean, and you mentioned 2035, which of course begs the question of how the EV goals, no new cars, gas powered cars will be sold by that year. That's the goal that Governor Newsom set out. So if we have more electric vehicles on the road, less congestion, right? But that also says then that's also less gas tax because people aren't paying for gasoline anymore. I'm kind of getting the sense that they're seeing that as well. And they're like, look, we need to make money any way we can, because obviously we're not going to get it through gas tax. That's going to go down if people really do transition away. And of course, if people continue to remote work, we'll just get everybody that's on the road.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's so much that is unanswered when we're talking about this issue, and so much to really think about. The study is still getting disseminated in publicly, and the MTC planners are going to do more what they say are public outreach efforts. But it is I think it's difficult to wrap your head around how this would be enforced, what the logistics of it would be, what the potential equity effects would be. Something that we heard at a meeting this week from some of these policy advisory council members was, if the region is going to institute a per mile toll, how is that going to affect folks, who are low income, who need to drive to get around to jobs and housing,
Exactly.
what effects. And so that's certainly one of the chief questions that planners are looking at too. Is there a way to do this in a way that is going to be fair to folks who could be priced out of jobs and housing opportunities? Are
they going to be having, I would assume then you talk about public outreach. I would assume there's going to be more meetings where the public could express themselves, because is there anybody that's a loud supporter of this idea that's just like, yep, that's the ticket. People are going to love to pay every mile that they drive their car?
Well, I think that there's certainly a contingent of folks who are really strong champions for public transit, who are really strong champions for green transportation, who see just the society's car dependency on cars as one of society's ills. So there is support for finding ways to get people out of cars, ride BART, ride Muni, ride AC Transit, ride a bike. But these are
people love their cars, Ricardo. People love their cars.
Strong, cultural rifts that we're talking about. And so it's going to be fascinating. A recommendation is going to come out in winter 2024. The planners are again, they're acknowledging, whatever comes out of this study might be something, completely different from what's on the table right now. Right. But for now, these are kind of the strategies that they're thinking about that could, again, really be things that could force behavior changes for the Bay Area.
Well, we'll see. Ricardo Cano, he covers transportation for the San Francisco Chronicle. I will link his story in the show notes. Ricardo, thank you so much for coming on the Nikki Medoro Show. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. And happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you. Stay dry. All right. Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. That's a big fat no for me. Let's welcome Kim McAllister to the show. No, I say no. I paid for these roads. I don't want to pay anymore. I am done. I don't see anybody really liking this idea. We pay enough. So
there was
if people want to ride public transit, they would do it. I'm sorry.
There was a comment in the chat. Someone said $13 and some odd cents to drive 4 freeway exits on 10 o'clock on a Friday morning. Really?
No, that's not what we want to spend our money on.
No, come on, man.
With the bridge tolls and everything else, I mean, people are bleeding money. You guys let me know in the comments, what do you think should be done to maintain our roads, all those sorts of things? I know, I hear you, Square. I'm not a proponent of paying for anything I've already paid for. So let me know in the comments. We'll read some of them. But first, I want to welcome our founding sponsor, Steve Moskowitz, to the show. And Steve, happy Friday. I hope you're staying dry and
happy
not sweating
Friday,
out there.
staying dry. And what a perfect intro. People don't want to pay more than they have to the government.
Exactly.
Welcome to what I've dedicated my professional life.
Yeah, exactly. And you're the man that figures out a way that you pay what you owe, but not a cent more.
Yeah. Exactly. And, right now it's March the 10th. It's traditional tax filing time, tax season. And a lot of people are just so resigned to it. They grumble and pay. But what I'd say is, look, of course we do tax returns. And, a lot of times people ask me, do you do regular tax returns? People that aren't in trouble. Of course. That's what I started the practice on. As you all know, before I was a tax attorney, I was a CPA. But we don't do the returns in the regular way. We look to get every possible tax benefit. And so many times when I take a new client, they say, gee, are these all new laws that it took advantage of? I say, no, they've been around for a long time. They say, well, why didn't my last person do it? I said, well, that's why you're here, because so many people are doing a tax return. It's just mass production. Give me your numbers. Okay, hurry up. We'll mail it out to you. And what we want to do is take a look at every possible benefit. For example, for some people, now in 2023, there's still things we can do to save taxes for 2022. Also, another thing that we have is there's a lot of times people overlook benefits. And not only can we take them this year, if you've overlooked them in previous years, we can amend the last 3 years, federal, and 4 years, California. We're all about saving you taxes. That's what we want to do. Let us show you what we can do when we do your tax return.
Let me ask you a quick question about amending the tax returns. Can you do that any time of year, or is it only this time of year where you can amend
any time of year, as long as you're within the statute of limitations. It's 3 years federal, 4 years California.
Look at that. Steve can do it for you year round. Just figure it out. Get your paperwork to him. He's a very busy guy, but he has time for every single Nikki Medoro Show listener. So give him a call, 888-TAX-DEAL, MoskowitzLLP.com. That's 888-TAX-DEAL, or MoskowitzzLLP.com. Have a great weekend, Steve. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And this weekend, I love how Jim Slayton mentioned it. You know what this weekend is?
Daylight savings?
Yes. Daylight saving. We have a coworker. Saving.
I always add the S. Yeah.
But I love it because Ricardo
as long as you don't add the S to Sierra, right?
Oh, Sierra's, yes. Oh, yeah.
We had someone who used to call the newsroom, like if you threw an S on the end,
yes,
party over.
Oh, God. It's funny how people just have a thing about that. But yeah, Jim's like, with the clock change this weekend, it's time to check your smoke alarm batteries. Ricardo had one chirping in the background. But yes. Okay. Look, I understand that maintaining the roads in the Bay Area is expensive. We can only imagine what these roads are going to look like after the series of storms that we have been having, right? I mean, potholes. What was it in Oakland? I think there was a huge pothole this week that was giving people flat tires left and right.
Yeah.
So we have to upkeep it. It is expensive. It is an ongoing thing. Could we make these roads more durable? Can we figure out a way of filling these potholes faster and more efficiently? I guess I'm not an engineer, but it takes money.
If you're going to have me pay $13 to go 4 freeway exits, does that mean that the money that you took for road improvements and infrastructure out of the taxes that I pay the state, that money will go to back to schools?
No.
Can we put that money towards schools? No, we can't do that.
Your money.
You just want extra?
More.
You just want extra.
More and more. More money and more money. Now, again, like Ricardo said, these are just ideas. They're going to be revisiting. The actual recommendation won't come until the winter of 2024. Seems far away. That's just next winter, right? That's next year. It's not that far away. And so we need to really pressure people that this is not a viable idea. And this is why I say that. If people wanted to take public transit, if public transit was working for more people, it was efficient, not too expensive, they would take it. They're not, for a various number of reasons. Someone was mentioning San Jose Light Rail. You're absolutely correct. I think it was Randy said it's been an abject failure. I take light rail. The only time I take light rail is if I want to go to Levi Stadium. That's the only time I take it. And now I don't even do that. Now I just drive. I park a little bit farther away and I ride my bike in.
Yeah.
That's literally what I do. Downtown, if you work downtown and maybe have to get to different parts of downtown that the light rail runs to, perhaps. And I'm not knocking the light rail. It serves a purpose, but I don't think it serves enough of a purpose for enough people. But BART is another idea, but BART's numbers are terrible and they keep going down. You want to reduce congestion. Stop having so many people go into the office. Now that will fundamentally change our cities like San Francisco. Absolutely. But what do we need besides office space, Kim? What do we possibly need more of? Housing, right? I mean, why not transition some of these office buildings into apartment units? You have a glut of all of this office space that's just sitting there empty. Transition. I say it like it's so easy, but it seems like an easy solution to me. Lax writes in, I agree, Nikki. If public transit was affordable, safe, clean, efficient, and ran 24 hours a day, a lot more people would use it. Unfortunately, it's none of those. Yeah, it's not like New York. It's not like the subway system there, right? I mean, BART shuts down for maintenance every night. It's a problem that we have to address, but I don't think that going after our money is going to be the way to do it. Unfortunately, for some people, they won't have an option. I mean, they will. They'll just stay in the congested lanes, right? Unless it's all the lanes, all lanes, toll lanes. Can you imagine? I mean, people will go broke, especially because it's not as if they designed our cities, at least at this point for most people, where they can work close to where they live. So a lot of people commute in.
Gas is over $5 a gallon now. You know, even if you have an electric vehicle, I'm sure that costs a mint to plug in now with your power bill. And now you add, paying to use the freeway, forget it. It's all about remote work. And then all the little businesses around town that, had been there to serve people that are working lunches, coffee, snacks, all those places are going away.
Yeah. And it sucks. And it's, obviously if you can live and work near each other where you can ride your bike or take a bus and it's not taking you 2 hours to do it, please do. But that's unfortunately not the case for a lot of people. They have to commute to make a living to live in this area. Yeah. Anonymous says light rail's crap. Shouldn't take an hour and a half to go from Campbell to Mountain View while smelling urine. That's the other thing. And BART has the same issue. It's right. It's not clean. It's not safe. You don't want to sit on it. You can't, and I'll say punish. You can't punish us monetarily because you guys designed the cities and enticed jobs to come to congested areas like San Francisco. So people can't afford to live there and have to commute in and then look at us and be like, why are you driving so much? And then you can't get on us for not taking the public transit that isn't efficient and takes way too long. I love Caltrain. I really do. It goes from San Jose, San Francisco, drops you off, right on King Street. It's great, except it takes an extremely long amount of time. And for someone who, unless I can catch the bullet train where it's an hour, so pretty much like the same amount of driving my car, which it never fails where I can't catch the bullet train, right? I'm not going to double the amount of time that I'm away from my family just to take Caltrain. It's not going to happen. We got this bullet train to nowhere. And how long is it going to take to, even if you do want to bump up public transportation, how long is it going to take for you to do that? Meanwhile, we have to pay all of these tolls. That's just, again, I understand the environmental aspect of it, but aren't we getting rid of our gas powered cars? Isn't that the whole point? So there should be, I don't know. So it wouldn't go into effect in 2035 necessarily. In 2024, they're going to give a recommendation. And it might not look like anything like we just talked about, maybe completely different. But they're so afraid of congestion with one hand. And yet the solution, don't go into the office so freaking much, is just dangling right there. And yet the economic impact of it is what they don't want to ignore. Now, speaking of economics, February jobs report came out. The U.S. economy added 311,000 jobs, which outpaced expectations. Coming up after Kim's news, I will be speaking with Kathleen Quinn Votaw. Now, she is the CEO of a strategic recruiting firm called TalentTrust. And she'll take a look at this jobs report from the recruitment perspective. So if you're looking for a job, if you know somebody that's looking for a job, maybe they just got laid off, you'll want to tune in for this. But she's basically saying that companies are creating jobs, Obviously, they're hiring, but where are they hiring? And I'll even kind of bring in the topic of commuting. How can people find the jobs that pay them enough near where they live? Where are some? How do you find those types of jobs? So she'll be coming up talking about that. We are following, of course, the aftermath of the storm. Silicon Valley Bank, by the way, collapses. Now, if you don't know Silicon Valley Bank, it's kind of a niche bank. It really was dealing with a lot of startup money, high risk venture capital type of stuff. So it's collapsed. We'll talk about that. And then San Francisco has to ruin the sweetest thing, of course, which are those free libraries that people, put in front of their homes.
Free libraries? What's happening with that?
Yeah, they're going after them. All because
that.
Of Karen. All because of a Karen, Kim McAllister, all because of a Karen. Click that thumbs up button before we go to Kim with the news. It helps support the show. Of course, the super chat is live. Look for the $sign. You can throw us a super chat, a super thank, a super comment that we'll read on the show. I'll give some thank yous throughout the show. The NikkiMedoroShow.com is where you can find links to past shows to share with your family and friends. We're getting a steady uptick in subscribers, and we want to keep that going. Also, consider becoming part of our monthly Patreon subscribers because we love all of you. All right, we're going to talk about the jobs report and what it means for getting a job next on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Let's start with the flooding. Here's some flooding in Felton. Here's 580. That's not right. This is the 580 freeway in Oakland, where it's flooded in and was closed down a few minutes ago. 101 in Gilroy looks like southbound closed as well because this storm is just moving in and leaving flooding in its wake. President Biden, as a matter of fact, has approved an emergency declaration for California because of all the stormy weather and the damage caused by it. That will supplement California assistance as well. Daylight savings time this weekend. Get ready. Clocks need to be sprung forward in most U.S. states at 2 o'clock Sunday morning. Daylight saving time is not observed in Hawaii or Arizona, except on the Navajo Nation. A group of conservative House Republicans is outlining their plans to tackle the debt ceiling. We'll see what they have to say. The Freedom Caucus today proposing a plan to cap discretionary spending at fiscal 2022 levels for a decade. They also would like to do away with President Biden's student debt relief program, rescind unspent COVID funds, and cut climate change and IRS funding under the Inflation Reduction Act. A radio talk show host, Glenn Beck. He is now the owner of the archives of a woman who argued the Roe v. Wade case before the Supreme Court decades ago. Glenn Beck said this week, the case is history, and now that history is in the hands of a pro-life conservative. Boo. Beck spent more than $600,000 on the purchase. Beck saying the archives of Linda Coffey will go on display later this year at the American Journey Experience Museum in the Dallas area. He says the Roe archives inclusion in the exhibit will underscore Coffey's bloody legacy that has now been undone in the service of life and the proper spreading of the Constitution, blah, blah, blah. Roe overturned by the Supreme Court last year, of course. I don't know how he was allowed to buy it. Also upsetting, these three men who were convicted in the killing of a young black man in Georgia are now appealing their case. Gregory McMichael and William Bryan say race had nothing to do with what they did. They, along with Travis McMichael, were convicted of a hate crime after chasing and eventually killing Ahmaud Arbery when they saw him in their neighborhood 3 years ago. Man is dead after apparently trying to steal a catalytic converter in Georgia. He was crushed by that car. The incident happened in Chatham County, home to Savannah. The owner of a car dealership found the man, called the police right away. Guess he didn't get away with that catalytic converter after all. And I don't know if you're like Tom Brady or not, but there apparently are a lot of retirees now considering unretirement. According to a study from Paychecks, people out of the workforce for an average of 4 years list needing more money as one of the top reasons. That followed by getting bored, feeling lonely, and inflation. Labor statistics show the workforce participation rate was nearly 26% in 2021. That is expected to climb. So yeah, a lot of people that had checked out of the workforce are checking back in. There is, speaking of working, another work-related story, a California congressman reintroducing his 32-hour work week act. And if passed, it would officially reduce the standard definition of the work week to 32 hours a week, down from 40, by amending the Fair Labor Standards Act. Democrat Mark Cano's proposal would also mandate overtime pay for any work done after 32 hours. The bill applies to non-exempt workers as well. Cano first introduced the legislation in 2021, but it failed to advance. I bet that will be the case here. I wanted to throw this story in, Nikki, because I know it means a lot to you, but 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy had some surgery today on that elbow, that injured throwing elbow. And it would allow him to return to play possibly as early as the start of next season. So he will be in progression program within 3 months, his full return in 6 months. And that means he's going to be back next season.
We're going to see. Is it going to be him? Is it going to be Trey Lance? Are they going to add to their roster so we don't find ourselves in another position like we did in the playoffs? We shall see. It's going to be interesting to see who will be starting for the San Francisco 49ers. It will definitely be interesting to see.
I'm going to give you this story as well. Actor Andy Serkis said, yeah, he would jump at the chance to reprise his role in a new Lord of the Rings film. This comes after it was reported that Warner Brothers will be making new films in the franchise. Serkis, of course, played the creature Smeagol, a.k.a. Gollum, in the original trilogy. My precious.
Exactly. That's funny.
The National Park Service, lastly, using humor to remind everyone about bear safety. The agency tweeted last week, never push a slower friend down if you encounter a bear in the wild. What? Even if you feel that the friendship has run its course, that's really just not the nice thing to do.
That's just rude. Come on.
Park Service jumping into a more serious safety tip for national park visitors. This after spring approaches, bears become more active. Some Twitter users seem more interested in the agency's friendship advice, one even asking what to do in case they happen to be the slower friend. Then what? The National Park Service replied, check in on the friendship before you head into the woods. Always a good safety tip.
Yeah,
this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. I'd never push you into the bear's path, Nikki. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, Steve can do it. 888-TAX-DEAL and MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim McAllister. So you would think an encouraging jobs report would be completely good news. Now, again, the U.S. economy added about 311 jobs. This was last month in February. Now, this beat expectations. The unemployment rate ticked up to 3.6% from 3.4%. But there is concern. One economist was saying, while the report is a strong one, it's bad news in the broader context of the Federal Reserve's campaign to curb high inflation. This person told CNN it's much hotter than the economy can run. And so this means the Fed is going to have to continue to hike interest rates. That makes a recession more likely. This also puts a fear of more layoffs, even though we have a good jobs report. You know, people are concerned, not just about their current job, but if they're looking for another job, where that's going to come, how easy it's going to be to find it, and are they going to make enough money to be able to afford living wherever they live, like an expensive place like here in the Bay Area. Well, joining us now is Kathleen Quinn Votaw, the CEO of strategic recruiting firm TalentTrust. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. So I guess first off, you obviously work with a recruiting firm. When you see a good, and I'm going to use this in quotes, good jobs report that beats expectations, what goes through your mind from the kind of unemployment job recruiting front?
I think our connection is not great. I have no idea why it's not working. So
we can hear
keep
you
talking
wonderfully.
to see.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can hear you. Are we jumbled, or because we can hear you very clearly?
Oh, great. It just corrected. Evan came on.
Good.
He's like the man behind the mirror. Thank you, Evan, whoever you are. God bless. So, yes, a positive jobs report is a good news, right? Can also be troubling news because our government might respond with a hike, right? So I think what's happening out there, we have 10.5 million open jobs and only 5.7 million people who want to work. So there's the big gap to focus on. We've been creating since March of last year hundreds of thousands of jobs. January was 511. I think they corrected it to 504,000. And this month is 311. The middle market and smaller businesses are bullish. They're not taking the news lying down. They want to grow and they want to go. So they're still creating jobs. So we have a little imbalance going on, wouldn't you say, ladies?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, can I just stop you right there? Because when you talk about job creation, what kind of job sectors specifically? And is the pay matching up? Like, I can get a job, but is the job going to be something that can sustain me where I don't have to have a second or even a third job to make ends meet?
So the biggest sector that had the biggest growth in job growth is leisure and hospitality. And then retail. So leisure and hospitality could be jobs like in a restaurant, a hotel. Retail could be in like Lululemon or whoever, selling clothing. So those jobs tend to pay $15 to $20 an hour. Right. And there's an abundance of those jobs. The sectors that started to fail a little bit is finance, manufacturing, and technology. So there's still huge job growth for people who want to get a job. And, $20 an hour can do very nicely for people, but they might have to drive an Uber on the weekend. But we're seeing a lot of people prefer to have gigs versus jobs. It's a difference.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, is that there has to be an age breakdown with people that want to do gigs versus having a career, correct? I mean,
you would think. I was in LA, God bless LA. I was going from one gig to another. I was going to a dinner somewhere. And I had this wonderful Uber driver. And I don't know about you, but I always talk to Uber drivers. I love Uber drivers. And I said, so how did you become an Uber driver? And he said, well, I'm a steel cutter by day. I'm 63 years old. I'm trying to save money for my retirement. And I'd like to retire in 2 years because cutting steel is a hard job. So I have been shocked at seeing who is driving Ubers and who is having these gigs. I think it depends on how much earnings you've had over your years of what you're going to do to provide for your families. Because Nikki and Kim, people work for one reason and one reason alone, to provide for their families. That's so they'll do what they have to make sure they take care of that.
I just was reading a story about this phenomenon of people unretiring. Yes. That an average of 4 years after they retire, they're like, oh, I don't have enough money for this. I better get back into the workforce. Are you seeing that that's the case?
Yes, because we're all getting older, right? Yeah. So we're getting, I'm 56 years old. I got my AARP card at 50, and I was a little pissed off that I got it because I think there's a lot more tread on my tires.
Right.
But, so there's people who haven't earned enough to live until their 80s and 90s. So they're a really great untapped population of people to bring into the workforce because they're usually responsible by that age. I say usually because there's some exceptions.
Hopefully.
There's some outliers. So
There's always the outlier.
There's an outlier. Yeah. So, but they've already made all their mistakes usually, and they want to work maybe 20, 30 hours a week. And wouldn't you rather somebody who's already been through the school of hard knocks and learned you got to show up on time, you got to tie your shoes, you got to dress appropriately, and show up and do what you say you're going to do? It's kind of this whole population that's being ignored because they're looking at the younger generations, which, hey, I dig millennials and Gen Zs. I love them so much. But there's this whole aging population, to Kim's point. Yeah, people are finding out, I don't have enough cash. I better giddy up and do something. And they're also they're bored, by the way, Kim. They're bored.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, isn't there a change in mentality? You must see it and hear it all the time when you talk to an older worker versus a younger worker of what they want from their next job. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the just to stay on the more mature worker, if you will, the older worker, they don't want to become irrelevant. Yes. And when you don't have a job, you might, especially for men, you might perceive yourself as irrelevant. So that's a big dang deal for that population. Women tend to be able to fill their time with the grandkids or tennis or something else, right? So that population wants to continue to learn, grow, be vital, be relevant. And it's really important, be active, because the more active you are, you're going to live longer. The younger generations, I have a 22-year-old who's graduating college right now. And I run a recruiting firm and I'm an author about retention and recruiting. He's so confused. He's like, where are the jobs? Who wants to hire me? What should I say? What should I do? They don't teach you any of that in college or high school. The practical, how do you show up? What do you wear? What's the conversation? What does a resume need to look like? What are they really looking from you for? What kind of values? Because you don't have the skills yet, let's be honest. But what can you demonstrate to them? Your work ethic, you're honest, you're reliable. How do you show that? And so the younger generations want to work for a company that provides flexibility, that will trust them and will give them opportunity to learn and grow. If you can do that, you're going to get the employees.
What about AI? I always hear from people saying, you know what, my application's not getting in front of people because it doesn't even get through all the AI computer systems. And that's another level. I mean, before it was like, who do you know? Who do you know? Shake some palms and do those sorts of things. Now, you go to some of these job recruiting sites and it's like, well, did I use the right keywords? Because I might have all the experience in the world and I might be the best employee, but I'm not even getting a face-to-face with these people.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So AI is big, it's sexy, it's great, it's technology, but you can't take the people out of a people interaction. And selecting someone to come hire for your company is pretty intimate. I mean, you've got to make sure they align with your attitudes and beliefs. And I call what you're, kind of posting a job, I call it the post and pray. Nobody's going to find each other that way. We're relying too much on the digital, on the technology, and 85 to 95% of communication is nonverbal. Like what we're doing right now, we're looking at each other, we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
85 to 95% is, do I see what you're thinking? Can I see you're about ready to ask a question? Am I responding to your nonverbal communication? So this AI thing, while it might be good to source a group of candidates in the selection process, it doesn't substitute that, brain power and heart in selecting someone who's going to align with my attitudes, my beliefs, the customers we serve. You can't take people out of the recruiting process.
No. But do you think that on the flip side, employers have the time to do all of those things? It's fine. I think everybody intellectually, Kathleen, knows what you're saying is true. Sure. But then when it comes and you're like, I have a job opening and you're getting thousands of applications. How do you dissect them and kind of weed them out if not using technology to get to that face-to-face? What kind of advice would you give to people to kind of make themselves stand out?
Sure. To employers or employees?
I guess both. I mean, an employer, what do you say to them to convince them like it's worth the time, extra work, so that you can get the right person, so you can get the right person across from you?
Great question. So I have 2 books, one called Solve the People Puzzle, the other one, Dare to Care in the Workplace. Solve the People Puzzle has an entire system of how to go about recruiting. There's 6 steps to it. Create an employment brand that is simply irresistible. You know that song, Simply Irresistible? So people want to come and work for your company. They have to at least have the conversation. Then number 2, you fill the top of the pipeline with people who may have skills relevant to your company, to the skills. And then the third step is nurturing those people over time, because maybe I'm a startup, maybe I have 100 people, maybe I have 14,000 people, but I might want you, Nikki, to come work for me, but it's not now, not ever, right? So I have to nurture you over time. It's a good old-fashioned sales and marketing 101 applied to recruitment. And then from there, thank you very much for my book cover. Then from there, you go to actually screening the people for the top skills, top behaviors, then interviewing them, and then actually making the offer. Do you know most people blow it at almost every stage, especially the interview stage, because they don't take the time to prepare for the interview? Like, I knew I was coming on this show. What did I do, Nikki? I went on LinkedIn and I made sure I knew who you were. I wasn't going to show up without having some knowledge, you know, but so do the research. So that's the employer point of view. Have a process, follow it, be disciplined, and hire a talent acquisition person to do it for you. It's a marketing and sales job. From an employee perspective, stop posting and praying, because you're never going to get noticed. Just knock it off. Dress up, put on your nice little, do your hair, put on a jacket, print your resume. If you want to work in a restaurant, retail, go show up, shake somebody's hand, kiss baby, shake hands, say hi, I'm here. If you want a more senior level job, research the company and send your resume to the CEO or president or owner of the company and say, hey, Kim, I picked your company. I really want to work with and for and grow with you. Can you tell me who I need to talk to in your organization to get hired? I don't know any CEO or president or leader in an organization who wouldn't walk down to the finance department or the marketing department and say, this person we should interview, because they went the extra step. It's passive. Go ahead.
It's the same thing as, I would say, being a reporter. You know, you have to show you're hungry for the story. You have to show you're hungry for the job. And if someone sees that you have a passion and desire, I'm sure they see so many people that are like, yeah, you know, okay, whatever. Whereas if you get that person in there that's got some energy and some passion for it, you know, it's a breath of fresh air. My problem has been really trying to figure out how the world of media translates into other jobs. And I think a lot of people that maybe have been laid off from one job are looking at their skills and going, all right, how do I take what I know how to do and turn it into a whole different job?
Right. And that's happening so many different places right now, Kim. So I love journalists and the media. Obviously, I'm a writer. So, you know, your writing skills and your research skills are applicable in so many different areas and different companies. And so those are the things that you do every day that you do really well are very applicable to other industries. And look at nurses. Nurses have opted out of nursing. Look at police officers. They've opted out of police officing. You know, they're now in security jobs, or they're in jobs where they can survey, like office security, or they'll go to different organizations where they're using surveillance information to apply to certain organizations, technology organizations. Like that mindset that, kind of investigative reporter and investigative, police officer is very applicable in many different industries.
Yep.
So when you're changing industries, look at the skill. And when you look at like nurses, look at the compassion and serving the general public. I mean, they don't get to choose who comes into their hospital, so those skills are really applicable in different customer service organizations. There's also medical devices companies that need nurses who know how to speak medical lingo in layman's terms, so sometimes medical to medical is a different language. We might not get it, but if you have a medical professional who can dumb it down to somebody who isn't in the profession, that's priceless. So there's so much cross-pollination right now. I think if you find a good person that aligns with your attitudes, your beliefs, and the customers you're trying to serve, you can teach them a skill. We need to invest in our people.
I think that, a lot of people and some of our viewers are saying it, the way that we searched for jobs back then, the kind of knocking on doors, getting dressed up, meeting the CEO or reaching out directly may not feel like it works because we don't hear those stories enough. Do you think, as let's just be honest, millennials get older, Gen Zs get older, that the job market and the way people are hired and recruited is going to go back to the way that maybe we were used to it? Or is this a fundamental change that people need to get used to?
This is a fundamental change that everybody needs to get used to. We're never going back to the way we were. It's not a Barbra Streisand movie. It is not happening. Robert Redford's not coming, ladies. We are going to be stuck in the hybrid hustle for the foreseeable future, because what happened, is people got wise to the fact they didn't have to get up and get dressed and, have an hour commute. They really decided that, hey, I can stay home. I can make breakfast, lunch, and dinner for my family. I can go for a run, a walk, or, jazzercise class. I can have a life and work. I have flexibility. And a lot of people who might earn under $60,000 a year, which is a lot of the population, why should I pay for gas? I've got kids in daycare. Do you know it costs $1,000 to $1,500 a month if you have a child to put them in some kind of care? So, 60,000 becomes what, 48K after taxes. Then you take 15K for each child off the top of that. Then you add gas onto it. What's left? And women are they're opting out of work hugely right now because they can stay home, take care of their families. And then what they can do is homeschool them or take care of an elder parent, and maybe sell one car and save some money that way. So things are changing, and the employees are actually more informed because we went into the pandemic, because they did more with less. They had a better, they did more with less, and they know they now can do it. It was kind of an education for them. So we're not, sorry, Nikki, we're not going back.
We have a question from Harry. Does the 65 plus crowd really stand a chance of finding a job, or is it going to be more giggish, Kathleen? Is it going to be, I'm 65 and up, no one's looking at me, no one's giving me a chance, I have to Uber or do something like that? Is that what you're seeing out there for these people?
I see a lot of open jobs, 10.8 million open jobs and 5.7 million people looking for work. I think you've got a big chance if you do a good job in the interview. It's called ageism if you don't consider all qualified candidates. So I'd say go for it. And, people are looking to hire people from the military, or looking to hire people who might have disabilities. They're actually more accommodating than ever. I think over 65, it's your time. Go for it. You're going to have a better chance now than before. People are hiring people with autistic, tendencies. They want to put people to work. They just can't find you. Don't fear your age. Go for it.
Can I ask one last question? And I wonder how you feel when you manage to hook up the perfect person for the perfect job. Is that like the highlight of your day?
Well, my team, I've got a team of recruiters, and I got to tell you, we met somebody this week in Las Vegas who we had introduced to her new employer. She ran into the arms of Katie Murray, who's on my team, almost in tears, saying, "You've changed my life."
Oh,
so
wow.
My recruiting team is very talented. Call out for Katie Murray. She just found this woman a job, and this woman had 3 or 4 other choices. But she really loved the employer we were representing because they cared. And it really does make a difference when you find a good recruiting firm who cares about the candidate and their family and the employer. That's where the magic happens, Kim.
Yeah,
absolutely. Kathleen, CEO of TalentTrust and the author of 2 books, Dare to Care in the Workplace, A Guide to the New Way We Work, and Solve the People Puzzle, How High Growth Companies Attract and Retain Top Talent. Kathleen, I really appreciate you. We'd love to have you back on, and thanks for coming on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I'll come back anytime, ladies. Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Thank you. Yeah, some great advice there. I feel in the comments and in the viewers, I'm feeling a little bit of the desperation of, I'm 60, I'm 65.
Mm-hmm.
I need to keep working, which, we're in the Bay Area. A lot of people have to or want to. That's the other thing. It's like, I'm only 65. I've taken care of myself. I still want to, contribute to society and to the economy. And so put yourself out there, like she said. But it's going to have to do with the interview. And I always default, Kim, it's who you know. Maintain those connections, because sometimes when you get older, you let them fall by the wayside.
It is. And, I think also when you have someone like Kathleen on your side, who's encouraging, who's like, this is your time, believe that. Because there's something to manifesting when you believe it, when you go into it with, as she was talking about, a positive attitude and a hunger for it. You're the one who gets the reward.
Exactly. Again, TalentTrust. She's the CEO of TalentTrust, if you want to check it out. And again, her books, Dare to Care in the Workplace and Solve the People Puzzle. Okay. We're going to do some quick news. I'm still waiting for my Friday food to be delivered. I think I got an alert. I'm starving.
What did we order today?
I took your advice. I'm getting the chicken tikka masala. Now,
okay.
I put it out there for some recommendations. I have one friend that was like, I'll just make it for you. I might take her up on that, but I was trying to support a local small business. I was going to go to one place called 8 Elements. Again, I've never gone to any of these places, but they were not going to be able to deliver for an hour and a half. And I'm not able to wait that long. So I'm going to Rangoli. I'm waiting for Rangoli to bring me my chicken tikka masala. And I did ask for it spicy. I don't know. They didn't give me levels. So we'll see how spicy it is. If I'm just going to not be able to speak, Kim, you might have to do the rest of the show. But we'll see. I have the chicken place in Morgan Hill that I want to visit. I have another place over in San Jose, actually near where I used to live, kind of close, that I want to try out. I have to get out there, but I think those are going to be pre-recorded ones, not deliverable ones, because they're a little bit far away for me to do it live on the show. So we'll do a Friday food segment. I want to get into the whole free libraries. People are so cute. I don't know if you have a ton of them in your neighborhood.
I love them.
I see them everywhere.
We now also have little free fridges, little free food pantries. Also,
with canned goods and stuff like that. We have one. I know of one. I don't know. I don't see them as often as the libraries, but I know of one location that has it. But again, if it was in your neighborhood, if you had to walk by a little free library, would complaining be at the top of your list? Because that's what happened in San Francisco. So I'll bring you that story. We will have to, of course, touch on the storm. I know Kim's following it in her news. There's a new social media trend. Again, if you have teenagers or college-age kids in your life, you will not want to miss what they're doing now, I'm going to do it with my Friday food segment, actually, because there's a recipe that goes along with it. And you tell me, of all the stupid things that you can ingest, is this at the top of the list? Because the recipe is kind of interesting. So we'll do that. And again, I'm still waiting. Hopefully my food will be delivered. It might be. I'm getting a bunch of alerts on my phone. So chicken tikka masala. Never had it before. I'm going to have it for the very first time. That's all coming up on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Ooh, it is cold. There was a headline in SF Gate today. It said, don't even try to go to Tahoe. Don't even attempt it. And now we've got a very likely avalanche warning issued for all of the towns, the ski resorts, the major roads around Lake Tahoe. The Sierra Avalanche Center calling this one a level 4 high avalanche warning. They issued it early Friday morning saying don't travel anywhere near avalanche terrain. Here's the quote from SF Gate. Widespread avalanche activity expected to occur with heavy loading of the snowpack from rain and high-intensity snowfall. So apparently avalanches rated as large or very large are very likely due to the combination of strong winds and wet layers of snow on top of less dense, less stable snow. Again, thank you to SF Gate for that information. And man, people in Tahoe, be really careful. People in the Sierra around snow. I guess the avalanche danger is very, very high. And speaking of snow, here's a story of survival. An 81-year-old man who spent nearly a week stuck in a snowbank in his SUV is back home. Jerry Jure left his mountain home in Big Pine, California. It's a sparsely populated area on the eastern side of the Sierra Nevada mountains. Left his home February 24th. He was headed for his family home in Gardnerville, Nevada, about an hour south of Reno. His grandson told CNN the retired mathematician and former NASA employee checked the road and the weather conditions before leaving. But his SUV slid off the road into a snowbank, and then a huge storm swept in. Jure stayed in the vehicle, conserved the gas and battery, survived on candy, croissants, and biscotti for 6 days before a rescue helicopter team spotted him. He spent a few hours in the hospital being checked over. Next day, back on a bus, back to his home in Nevada. I'm telling you, 81 years old, the guy is stuck in his vehicle inside a snowbank for nearly a week, and he manages to walk away from it. Wow. Story out of the White House today as well. This is the White House calling out what it says are shameful, hateful attacks on the LGBTQ community. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said Republican states are attempting to roll back protections for same-sex couples, and there have been more than 400 anti-LGBTQ bills introduced at the state level across the country. She said a right-wing commentator at CPAC said transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. Well, that's really diverse, isn't it? She asked President Biden, she said that President Biden believes everyone should be able to live with safety and with dignity. Seems like a general basic idea. President Biden, meanwhile, hosting the president of the European Commission at the White House. The two held a bilateral meeting in the Oval Office. President Biden saying they'll discuss continuing to provide support to Ukraine and sanctions against Russia, too. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen saying the two will also discuss investments in new clean energy technologies. Here's a story for you. Tennessee's lieutenant governor is apologizing for his behavior on social media. Social media will get you in trouble every time if you're not careful. Screenshots surfaced of Republican Randy McNally commenting on several suggestive pictures of a man on Instagram, including one showing the man's backside. Speaking to News Channel 5, McNally said, he's really, really sorry if he has embarrassed people, including his family and members of the state legislature. Critics accused him of hypocrisy after lawmakers passed bills seen by some as targeting the LGBTQ community. Yeah, hypocrite city. This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has spent put his knowledge to work. That's right, for individuals and for businesses. So if you need help with your taxes, call Steve Moskowitz. He's at 888 Tax Deal. He's also at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Back for the second half of the Nikki Medoro Show live on YouTube. Click that thumbs up button, people. We absolutely love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to give some shout outs to people that have donated to our super chat. Wes with a $10 donation. Here's to losing an hour of sleep. Yes, daylight saving time sucks. Although I do like it. Are you a lighter earlier person or a lighter later person? Kim?
Are you talking to me?
No?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I am a lighter later person.
So you like it to say lighter later. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. I like it later. I don't care about the morning. I don't care. I know some people like it lighter in the morning because of driving and safety and stuff. I don't care about that. Stop messing with the damn clocks. Everyone agrees on that. Thank you guys for the $10. Joe with the $10 super sticker. Thank you very much for that. We were talking about toll roads and how they may go everywhere with Ricardo Cano at the Chronicle earlier. Mo's like, use inner city roads and highways, boycott toll roads. If you can, Mo, and thank you for the $2 donation. If you can, I mean, some people have to travel on certain roads to get where they're going. They have no choice if they want to get paid or get to family or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then Scott Rittenberg, thank you, Scott, for the $10 super sticker. I appreciate all of you.
Happy Friday.
Absolutely happy Friday. And again, if you would consider also donating to our Patreon, they take less of the money and taxes and stuff like that. So theNikkiMedoroShow.com is how you can join our monthly subscribers. And of course, PayPal's up and running at theNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. So it is freezing in my house, Kim McAllister. So I hope my food stays nice and hot.
Put my sweater on.
I need, it's 62 in here. Okay, so I got the chicken tikka masala.
Yeah, that's a nice warm meal. Looks good.
This is from Rangoli. Not too far. I've never had it before. It's hot because it's apparently like only a mile or so away from my house.
Have you ever had chicken tikka masala before? Right? Yeah.
It's creamy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get the spice. Let's see. I'm
delicious.
letting it like kind of simmer.
And
it's not
warm
that
and toasty. It's one of my favorite meals on a really cold night.
Have you ever made it?
I'm not that good. I don't cook. We know this, right? We don't. I haven't. My husband's the cook in the house. I haven't cooked a meal since I got married.
Does he like Indian food? Would he cook Indian food?
So interestingly, he works at a company where most of the people are of Indian descent at the company. And so when he does go into the office, they will often go out for Indian food. And so he's been around it a lot, which is why he introduced it in our house. And I really like it. I'm not a big spice fan. So I have to be pretty careful of whether it's hot, spicy hot. Yeah, but chicken, my husband says I love chicken tikka masala because basically there's just a lot of butter in the sauce. And how can you not like that?
I'm glad that you mentioned the butter because when I was talking about buttered chicken, when I was looking yesterday, and because I decided I was going to do the tikka masala, and I was saying that I wanted it spicy, and it's not. I can handle way more spice. I'm just taking a sip of my water real quick. Somebody was mentioning that buttered chicken, and I don't know if this is true. Again, I'm not an Indian food expert, but they were saying that buttered chicken is a little bit spicier, but very similar to tikka masala.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I might try that. This is very, very good.
Amy says, this is Trader Joe's, she says, has a chicken tikka masala that is really, really wonderful. And Floyd says, I completely agree. It's perfect with naan bread. Oh, Lord. Did you get naan with your order?
I should have. I know it was on the menu, but I was like, I have a bunch of leftovers and no offense, trying to watch my.
You take a few more bites. I'll read some text while you do that. Calvin's helping me out. He says, watch more YouTube for cooking. It helps me. Agree. I do need to do this. Square says you can almost smell it when you bring it close up to the camera like that. Judy agrees with me. I like Indian food as long as it isn't spicy. Flo says that chicken tikka masala looks great. So yeah.
I don't understand. So like the spice people, the non-spice people, is it because you can't handle it? That's what I don't understand about people saying, I don't like spicy food. What don't you like about it? Is it
the fact
painful?
that it feels like my face is burning off and my tongue is on fire. That's why. M. Oak says, Kim lives in Butter and Eggs Town. She like the butter. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Butter and Eggs Day Parade coming up in Petaluma, as a matter of fact. And Julia will
That's the thing. I think we've talked about that before.
With the Petaluma High School Marching Band. Yeah. So. So pretty good, that tikka masala. And you know what? To go on a cold, rainy night when everyone gets a little rice and a little tikka masala on their plate and it's warm and you get some naan bread. Love it. Love it.
I love the Friday food segment. I'm always starving. The funny thing is, I never eat this early. I only eat this early on Fridays. Normally, I don't eat anything until after I get off the air. Nothing. I eat nothing.
Yeah.
And so
Lori Above the Bar kicks in for $20. So thank you, Lori Above the Bar. You rock. She says, thank you for bringing up the little library. I can't get the trash can that was on my corner replaced after its removal 10 years ago, but the city gets right on punishing the little library. Oy.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to show you a picture of this library, and you guys tell me if walking by this cute little thing would have you complaining. Here it is. Look how cute it is.
Adorable. That's a nice one. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people really go all out. So this is, I mean, it's like it's in front of a Victorian home on Pine Street. As you can see, it's decorated really, really nice. And so it's been there for more than a decade. It's in front of Susan Meyer's sidewalk. She's in the Lower Pacific Heights neighborhood. And it's been there again for more than a decade. But then, of course, an anonymous complainer called 311 and complained. And so what does the city do? Instead of telling the woman, you know what, we checked it out. There's plenty of room for people to walk. There's plenty of room for wheelchairs to get by, because I understand if it's blocking the road, that's a problem, but it's not. I mean, look at it again. I mean, people are able to color the sidewalks. There's so much damn room in front of this thing. But no, they said, if you want to keep it, you have to remove the bench and the library or pay $1,400 for a minor encroachment permit. That, my friends, is San Francisco in a nutshell.
She put the bench out there without asking the city, and she put the little library out there. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment because I love the little free libraries. Most of the time, I see little free libraries at the very edge of someone's front yard. So it's on their property. Where she went wrong here was putting it on city property and out on the sidewalk. If she had just set it, right at the edge of her gate and made it a little higher so people could, reach over and grab a book or whatever, that would have been different. But instead, to put a bench on a city street and to use part of the sidewalk for your little free library. So what if the city doesn't say anything? Then everyone's putting their stuff out on the sidewalk and saying, well, she did it. So I feel like you can't just dump something on the sidewalk, however awesome it may be, and say, here you go. If you want a little free library or a little free pantry, you should put it at the edge of your property on your property line. And use
here's the thing, though. Her home's front stairs, so that are part of her home, stretch farther into the sidewalk than the bench or the library.
Her home's front stairs go into the sidewalk?
Stretch out into that area farther than the bench or the library, than the bench or that little free library. So the neighbors created a GoFundMe to raise the money, but the Myers don't want to go that route. They say they could pay the fee, but they don't think they should. Public Works says the couple doesn't have to pay for now while they develop a new program to make it easier to add benches, free libraries, and other neighborhood amenities, but that obviously hasn't happened yet. And they say it's the principle. When you're trying to raise spirits in a city at a very low time, that should not be punished. They installed this bench about 25 years ago.
Oh, wow.
That's the thing. It's like all of this has been there for so long.
Yeah.
And again, you have something that's sweet and it's nice and should bring joy. Yeah. And then some idiot has to be like, you know what? I know it's not doing anything to me, but I'm going
to complain. Yeah.
I'm going to complain.
And I feel like there should be some rule, some statute of limitations where if your bench is on their sidewalk for more than a year and the city hasn't figured it out, it's grandfathered in. Bench is obviously excellent. Everybody wants it. No one said anything about it. The city hasn't noticed. So carry on. Right?
Yeah. Interesting point by NSTARS. If a homeless camps on the sidewalk, are they fined $1,400? Yeah. Exactly. It's the things that people go after. Yeah. Like, don't go after this. This is a nice thing. This is a free library. It's something that people try to do to, brighten their neighborhoods. But of course, somebody has to complain, and that sucks. So we'll see. Obviously, it's there right now. They're not paying it. They could pay it. It's the principle of the damn thing. Absolutely. Okay. I want to kind of keep it on the food and drink front. Okay. First, now, are you someone that salts their food a lot, Kim?
I don't even use salt. But my dad doesn't even taste the food. He just automatically grabs a salt shaker and boom, boom, boom. But I never use salt.
So there is a new report out by the World Health Organization. And it's found that 7 million people could die of diseases linked to excessive salt consumption before the decade's end.
That's
unless
sad.
Governments immediately pass tighter restrictions on salt. See, I'm thinking that they're looking at salt like they do sugar. People put sugar, especially the United States. We put sugar in things that don't need sugar, right?
Yeah.
That's why you always see like applesauce with no added sugar, because the apples have their own sugar in it. You don't need to add any more to it. Ketchup, no added sugar. Tomatoes have sugar in it.
You put extra sugar in your ketchup? Who does that?
No, but there's ketchup brands that'll say no added sugar.
Oh, well, that's because it's already loaded with sugar. Yeah.
Exactly. So
you don't need any extra.
Yeah, I buy things. If I can have it with no added sugar, I hands down do that. My son, I was saying earlier, I think I always have to rein him in on the salt. He loves salt. He salts everything. I'm like, stop with the salt. Like, stop adding so much salt. And it's because, and I tell him this, I'm like, the more salt you add, the more you're kind of like ruining those taste buds where you need more salt to taste the salt. When you cut out salt, you notice it immediately. We are our old board op, Chris. He had to cut out salt from his diet. And I remember when he started cutting out salt and then he'd get old, potato chips that had the normal amount, he could taste it. He's like, oh my God. And because we both like those salt and vinegar chips. I don't know if anybody likes salt and vinegar chips.
I know that you love those.
They were like way too salty after a while. Once you start cutting it out, same for sugar. Once you try to cut it out after a while, you realize how sweet or how salty it is.
It's true. Now I can't go back to drinking sugary drinks after I've cut out the drinks and sugar. If you serve me you would think it's no big deal if you screw up and put sugar in my iced tea. I can't drink it. I won't.
Yeah, it's. I used to, when I was cutting out sugar, and I have largely. That's some of the reasons why I don't drink certain beverages that I used to. I can't drink those sweet drinks because it gets to me. I used to drink one of my other cocktails, and I'll just call it a cocktail because it's not, that I used to drink all the time until I cut out sugar, was my kind of doctored up sangria. Okay. And what I used to do.
7-Up and wine?
I used to get the big jug at the Carlo Rossi and 7-Up. Half Carlo Rossi sangria, half 7-Up, diet 7-Up, whatever. And I used to, and I mean, it was like Kool-Aid to me. Yeah, be careful, obviously. But it was so good. And then I cut out sugar and I would take a sip of that. And I was like, I can't do it. I can't even really drink red wine or wine that much because of the sugar in it. It just, it gives me not a hangover, but like a headache, like a sugar headache. So once I started cutting all of that stuff out, it's made quite a difference in also my alcohol intake as well. But yeah, they're saying they want to set different goals. So the WHO is hoping to reduce global salt intake by 30% from 2013 levels. And they're considering, trying to extend the target to 2030. But you have to look at how much salt is in it. More than 70% of salt in the American diet comes from packaged and prepared foods. All of course it does. Processed foods. Yeah. Of course it does. I try to tell my son, especially my son, he loves to go to the grocery store with me. My daughter, not so much. And I tell him, like, let's stay on the edges. Let's get the vegetables. Let's get this. But he beelines. If he could live on goldfish crackers, he would. He would live on goldfish still. And he's like almost 12.
Feel
he
it.
Loves them. Loves those.
I feel that crackers. Because my guilty pleasure, I don't know, maybe once every 3 months or so, when I feel like I must have some really salty thing. God, I love Cheez-Its. So very similar to the goldfish fish
Hands
crackers.
down. We have both of those right now. He stuck both of them this last time in the thing. But I said no, like I can never say no to the goldfish because literally it's in his lunch. Like he loves them. And I'm like, fine. But Cheez-Its, once he put the box of Cheez-Its in there, I was like, ah. But there's better crackers. I mean, even though again, you still have to watch the salt and everything. Triscuits, I never used to love Triscuits. I thought it was like hay. And then they came out with all the new flavors. And I love with a little bit of like cheese or like salami on it. I could do that.
The salt on the back of wheat thins. You put the salt side down on your tongue. Oh.
Another problem I have is with the saltine crackers. We call them sick crackers. If you give me a sleeve of saltines and butter, both will be gone. Like I just
you put butter on saltine crackers?
Oh my God, with a cup of tea. I will eat the whole stick of butter.
Butter on saltine crackers. That is a new one.
Yeah. I mean, think of it, it's like toast. It's like anything. It's crackers and butter. Is that normal?
No,
she's
that's
weird.
not normal.
Not everybody that Kim is weird.
That is not normal.
In the comments. Come on.
Interesting,
Karen. Maybe my son has a vitamin deficiency. Possibly. You know what's interesting? It's because my daughter has Crohn's and we're really trying to pump up her weight. She has to drink those boosts, like the drinks that have all the vitamins
or whatever.
And everything.
Sure.
Ensure, like that. My son's been starting to drink them. He loves them. And I'm like, whatever gets more vitamins in you, drink away, even though those things are friggin' expensive. Yeah. I'm trying. See, you're weird. Butter and saltines are great.
Really, Shannon?
Oh, they're so freaking good.
I've never heard of such a thing with butter on your crackers.
Murphy says everybody puts butter on saltines.
Really?
See? Yes.
That just sounds so gross. Yeah, no.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
When I was a kid growing up, the reason why I call it sick crackers is my grandmother lived with us our whole life, and if I was homesick,
saltines got me through pregnancy.
No, but she would make me a saltine butter sandwich. She would give me like a plate. There'd be like 8 of these little butter saltine sandwiches with a cup of tea. And my grandma would come in here and she's like, here you go. I could still see her doing it today. Nothing made me feel better. It's a butter on saltine. Yes, weirdos. How about you guys try it before you knock it? All right. Go get a sleeve of saltines. Put a little thin thing of butter or a thick one, because as I eat, the pat of butter starts getting thicker and thicker. I start off, don't go crazy, and then I just eat it all up. But yeah, I gotta watch it. Yeah. So anyways, watch your salt intake, people. 7 million people, they're thinking by decade's end could be dead because of your excessive salt intake. And
so
go ahead.
My husband, I mentioned, is the cook in the house. And if I try to put salt on something, he looks at me and he's like, I already dealt with that. Yeah. I put the proper amount of salt in it when I cooked it. It doesn't need anything. Okay. Oh,
well, I would want you to taste it first. I agree with him. Taste what I made first,
right,
and then see if it needs it. The only thing I put salt on is things that I know doesn't have any salt. Like, for instance, if I have corn on the cob, for instance, and there's no salt on it, they just grilled it or however we cooked it, I'm going to put salt on it. And mayonnaise and Parmesan cheese and hot sauce. So good. But yeah, I'll put stuff on that as long as I know it hasn't been seasoned already. If it has already been seasoned, give it a shot. You might like it just the way it is. Like I got this tikka masala. There's no way in hell I was going to put salt on it before I tasted it.
No.
And it didn't need anything, obviously. But yeah, you should definitely taste your food first and then salt it. Oh, Karen, like salt on my oranges and apples too? Salt on watermelon I've heard of.
Yeah.
Kim says I probably cook with too much salt, but yeah.
I haven't heard of salt on fruit like that.
Yeah, it brings out the sweetness. Salt brings out the sweetness in the fruit. I know that with watermelon. I haven't tried it with the other fruits. But yeah, it'll bring out, it sounds counterintuitive a little bit, but yeah, if you put a little salt on it, it can bring out the sweetness. Yeah. With your taste buds. Okay, I want to squeeze this one in because, Kim, we have children. Now they're not of drinking age. Thank God. Have you heard? Hold on, I want to get my pictures. Have you heard of Borg? Have you heard of Borg? BORG. It's called Blackout Rage Gallon.
No.
And this is the new TikTok thing where a bunch of college kids apparently this week were sent to the hospital, even though none of them had serious injuries from drinking this. Here is one recipe. 1 gallon jug, a bottle of vodka, a half a gallon of water, and a whole Mio. Mio is that stuff that you spray into your water that gives it flavoring. So you empty half the water gallon, fill it to the top with vodka, pour in 1 whole Mio packet, shake the mixture, and let the good times roll. So I have sound right now of this woman. It's
finding they're finding new ways to kill themselves and others. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. They're convinced themselves that it's okay because it has so much water in it. So listen to this chick. I have a picture of her do her recipe. Here we go.
I'm going to show you how I make my Borg. So first you need a gallon of water. You want to pour out about half of it. Now it's time to add your liquor. Today we're using Tito's vodka. It's in this little sweater, very on theme, staying warm. Then you're gonna pour it right in your Borg. I put in probably like a third of this. And the final real step in making a Borg is to add your Mio or some crystallite. So I'm just gonna squirt it for like 5 seconds. Oh fuck. But I like to add some special juice, so I'm gonna throw in a Celsius. This is the sparkling wild berry flavor. So we're gonna pour in the Celsius. And then lastly, because it's only 1 p.m., we're gonna add some liquid IV so we don't get hungover at midnight. I'm just gonna throw this whole pack in here. I shake it all up. Taste test. It's really good. Everyone reviewed it and also said it tastes really good. So happy snow day.
Anybody try Borg? Some people are calling it jungle juice, but they're saying because of the water and the vitamins and what, like she added like powder IV. I don't know what the hell that is, liquid IV.
If you drink that whole thing, you're drinking a whole bottle of vodka.
Yeah, exactly. Eric says the thing about Borg is you control the amount of alcohol. You don't share it. Nobody can spike it. If you put too much booze in, that's on you. How about this? Be an adult and have a regular cocktail with like an ounce of booze in it or something. Why does it have to be in this gigantic? And I know, okay, I'm sounding like an old lady here, but like there's even jungle juice. It came in, you remember the McDonald's jugs, like with the orange drink in it, a little bit, get a cup of it. Not, this is my entire gallon jug of Borg, blackout rage gallon. That's what it say it stands for. Don't do that. So if you have any college age kids, if you're a college age kid, don't drink that stuff. It's not going to end well. It's not going to end well, and it didn't end well for a bunch of kids. I forget what state it was. I don't know. I don't think it was Texas, but they were sent to the hospital. Now, none of them died or had kidney failure, liver failure, or anything. But yeah, it's just not something that you should ingest. No. Okay, coming up after Kim's news, a little bit of music for you from outer space. And then, of course, I do want to touch on some movies, the Oscars. In some parts of the country, there's quite a matchup happening on Oscar Sunday, and it doesn't have to do with the actors or actresses. And I'll ask Kim what she would choose, what side she would choose. Again, click that thumbs up button, and here's Kim with some news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Yes, and this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. We'll talk about the weather again because it is really packing a punch, and people living in San Bernardino County are now being told to record the damage done by all these winter storms. County officials say people should fill out a form through the county website. The information given, not an application for relief, but it lets them know exactly what's going on. A lot of people have been stuck in the snow. They're still trying to dig people out. And now here comes another round of storms. Relief, but apparently the California Department of Water Resources said this afternoon that it is now releasing water from Lake Oroville. The California Department of Water Resources saying the state's second largest reservoir, they had to get some water out of there in order to prevent flooding in downstream communities. This is so, you have to do what you have to do. You don't want people's homes to flood or people to be hurt. But what a waste of water. Why don't we build some storage facilities that could possibly hold this water? Because we're going to need it.
Because they're not built yet, and the rain.
Well, why haven't we been moving on it?
We're idiots. We're idiots, obviously. The answer to this is always we're morons.
Where's the water tanks? Where's another reservoir when we know that we're going to need this water? Where's a place that we can pump it out and put it somewhere else? Instead, release. The water being released from the Oroville Dam over the newly constructed spillway. The department first released water from the new spillway in April of 2019, and it hasn't been used since. Of course, that original spillway was destroyed in storms in 2017. That one was pretty serious, triggered some evacuations for people living downstream as well. So now more water out the spillway, and we'll never see that water again. At least 5 people are being detained now in connection with that kidnapping and killing of Americans in Mexico. That, according to an attorney general south of the border. The news comes after the Mexican drug cartel behind what was happening, or they say behind what happened there, issued an apology. Said, whoops, we shouldn't have done that. My bad. I'm sorry. President Biden making it clear in his budget that he will not allow for entitlements to be cut. Nope. That's what the Office of Management and Budget Director Shalonda Young said during today's White House press briefing. She said the president's plan will strengthen Medicare, strengthen Social Security, and other critical programs that Americans depend on. There is apparently a big racial gap when it comes to who feels safe walking alone at night where they live. You feel safe, Nikki, walking alone at night? Would you go out in your neighborhood and spin around?
Yeah.
You do?
I do. Yeah. And even in my old neighborhood, I did, because we would walk at night all the time. I think that's also just because I think there's a mentality that's involved in it. I think that if there was a lot of crime happening in my neighborhood, obviously I would feel differently. I know that in San Francisco, when if I worked in the evenings or early morning hours,
keys in your hand, walking to the car. Absolutely.
I didn't. But at home, I feel safe.
Yeah, I feel safe walking through my neighborhood. I don't usually. I wouldn't really walk at night unless there was something going on like trick-or-treating, but okay.
Well,
I see a lot of people
raining, I'll walk. Jesus.
When I used to drive to Station X at the crack of dawn in the morning, it would always surprise me the people I saw out running at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. It's like, what is happening? Well, this Gallup poll says 73% of Americans believe that they are safe walking at night, but that number sits at just 46% for Black women. They don't feel so safe. For their part, Black men are just above the national average at 75%. So,
I mean, I wonder, does it go into what they're afraid of? Are they afraid of being assaulted? Are they afraid of being stopped by the cops? Like, what is it? What makes you not want to walk?
Yeah, I don't
know.
As
a woman, I would be afraid of getting attacked. Straight up. I would be afraid that someone would attack me. I think that if you're in some parts of the city getting robbed, something like that. But for me, I just don't want to be attacked.
I would say probably Black men have the a fear, a legitimate fear, because if you're a Black man walking out on the street at night, you're probably, I would imagine, likely that the cops will stop you or something.
Oh, possibly, yeah.
Not right, but that's the way it is, right? I think the thing is interesting that in my neighborhood, the thing I would be most freaked out about is wild animals like raccoons and possums. They're all over the place at night. That says something in and of itself. There are insurance adjusters in Florida, and they are still tallying the damage from at the 6-month anniversary of Hurricane Ian. As of this week, the state's Office of Insurance Regulation reported nearly $14 billion in insured losses, close to 710,000 claims filed. Over 250,000 claims have been filed in Southwest Florida's hard-hit Lee County alone. There is a man, and he is accused of doing something not very nice, selling fake sports trading cards.
Okay. Oh, that sucks.
And then they end up with a faker baker. Those of NBA great Michael Jordan included in the faker bakers. The U.S. Attorney's Office in New York City says the defendant was arrested this week in Denver. So they got him. Prosecutors allege the scheme happened between April of 2015 and July of 2019. he was selling fake sports trading cards. So be careful.
That's unfortunate.
Careful who you buy it from, right?
Exactly.
This report, sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. If you need help with your taxes, thank God you can have Steve Moskowitz on your side. He's at 888-TAX-DEAL and MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you, Kim. All right, so I'd love to play that music, and I was looking while you were talking. I had this other music. It was actually your husband that passed it along to me that today is International Bagpipe Day. Your husband plays the bagpipes?
So, well, okay. I come from Scottish ancestry, among other things. Okay. And I think it started with my obsession with the Outlander TV show. The
Hottie McOtters on Outlander?
The Hottie McOtterson show. That's right. And so I was trying to convince him to buy a kilt, but he's more of a musician. So he went the bagpipe route. He ordered this little practice bagpipe thing. And so he doesn't have bagpipes, but he has the starter bagpipe kit where it takes a long time to learn how to play them. So he's learning on this. It's not like he doesn't have the pipes. It's like just the whistle part that you blow into. So,
okay. All right. Well, it is International Bagpipe Day. Apparently, the first mention of bagpipes was in 1544. And then in 1746, did you know that playing the bagpipe was banned in Scotland because it was connected to the war?
Well, it was because of that. It was this Scottish culture. And it's similar to what we did to Native Americans. The English came in and said, no kilts, no tartan plaids, no bagpipes, anything Scottish culture, your language, squash it down.
There you go. I've never tried to play. Did you try to play
No,
David's
I can't do it.
Practice?
Can't do it.
Blow the bagpipes.
No.
Well, it is International Bagpipe Day. I don't know if that's what they would want to hear in outer space, but if you've ever wondered how spacecraft data, what it sounds like, there is a flutist who has figured it out. I'm going to play you this. I'm going to share the screen and tell me if you can hear it, because this is in the Washington Post. They have a bunch of clips. It's pretty cool of what certain things sound like when you kind of put the data into it. Okay, so let me start first. This is music depicting Voyager 1's transition from our solar system to interstellar space. So that's pretty cool. So that's what that sounds like.
That's a great flautist right there. Wow.
The flautist. Thank you. I knew I was saying that wrong. All right. And then
she's amazing. Wow.
This is the geyser eruption. This is what it would sound like if it was put to music. The geyser eruption at Yellowstone National Park, and most comes in the buildup of the eruption as conditions are more unstable. So here is the sound of that. I like this one. And then this is also at Yellowstone National Park. This is depicting the bubbling of mud, known as mud pots. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Isn't that neat?
I love it. Yeah.
They take that data and they try to, obviously put it to music. Again, now this is an orchestra piece telling the story of Voyager 1. This is using 40 years of data. So this is what they say it sounds like. This is an orchestra piece. I could see this being part of a movie, can't you? Like,
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's 3 minutes long, so we're not going to play all of it. But if you
It
wanted to
makes
watch
me-
it, those have it. It's really cool.
It makes me think of like closing my eyes and just floating weightless through space.
Ooh,
You know?
yeah. You know, Matthew, my kind of hottie, was an Interstellar. I'd float through space listening to that music with him. All right. All right. Well, speaking of actors and movies. Oh, I did want to throw this before we go into the matchup at the Oscars. Did you see what there's going to be a reboot of? And I don't know if you remember this movie or not. Do you remember the movie Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze?
Oh, yeah.
Remember? So apparently they're redoing it with Jake Gyllenhaal. I guess. I mean, it's called Roadhouse. I'm assuming
it wasn't that good the first time. Why do we need a repeat?
Well, it's different. I mean, it's kind of like MMA focused or whatever. Jake Gyllenhaal is in it. Look how yoked he got.
Oh my.
Oh my. So this is a scene. Conor McGregor is in it. I don't know if it's a cameo or he has more of a significant role in it. But yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know if it's going to be following the same plot line as Roadhouse, but I don't think that you needed to remake it. Patrick Swayze, rest in peace. That was my mom's heartthrob growing up, was Patrick
Swayze.
Yeah, she loved him. It was just like Matthew McConaughey. You asked her who was your Hollywood boyfriend? Patrick Swayze. I was
working in an emergency room when he was brought in one time. He had been injured on the set of a movie and came in via ambulance, and we had to employ blackout procedures where you change the person's name. And so you don't have you don't have their real name. You have a fake name that you're using, and everyone in the hospital had to be aware of it and know it. You could give no information out. You can't anyway, but like really, it was like information full on clamped down. But he and his wife were really nice.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Judy finished Swayze's memoir. I don't have that. Maybe I should get that for my mom. Her birthday is coming up. But yeah, I loved Patrick Swayze. It was so sad that he passed
Calvin
away.
did not give him a sponge bath. No.
That's quite the story. All right. So the Oscars are on Sunday. Unfortunately, we couldn't have Tim Sika on. He's dealing with something personally. So, but it is quite the matchup happening. And it's actually more to do with programming. So guess what's going up against the Oscars, Kim? The season finale of The Last of Us. Now, this does not impact us on the West Coast.
No.
Because I think we can start watching. The Oscars come on at 5 our time, and The Last of Us is way after that. And then they replay it, I guess, at like 8 or whatever. Oscars.
I just don't feel like it really, you can say it goes up against it anymore, because the truth is they put it out on video so you can watch the Oscars and then scoot over and click on it whenever you want.
Yeah, that's
How many
true.
people watch the thing the minute it comes out? Who does that anymore?
If you want to watch the Oscars, though, you want to watch it live because then there'll be spoiler alerts, right? Like,
that's right.
So you watch that, and then it's on HBO, so you can watch it anytime you want. With the finales, though, I think that's the difference. Is it's the finale.
Do you ever make a point to watch a TV show that's on any one of these streaming platforms live? Like the minute they put it out, it's not live, but the minute they put it out, or do you just watch it when it's convenient for you and when you get to it?
That's true. I mean, but the finale, no. I mean, like for instance, with Game of Thrones, I was watching it the minute it was because I didn't want spoilers. And I think that's why people are saying, you don't want to hear what happens. You don't want to be on Twitter or Facebook and somebody blow it, So that in that instance, I think that's what's different. If it was just another episode of the show, I wouldn't care too much. I'm excited about it. I love the fact that you watched it. I mean, are you going to watch, if there's a season 2, are you going to continue to watch it?
I have to now. I have to. Thanks, Nikki. Expletive.
The doors should be open.
God, this show gives me the freaking heart attack.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Oh, somebody doesn't like Jimmy Kimmel and doesn't think he's going to do a good job.
Oh.
I think he's funny. I mean, I don't watch his late night show because I don't stay up that late, but
I find Fallon to be a little cheesy. A little too
no, but
like
it's Kimmel. It's Kimmel,
yeah,
not Fallon.
Yeah, they're saying Fallon is way better. I feel I find Fallon to be a little like, you know,
Easy,
everything contrived and a little cheesy and over the top and very like, I don't know. He's way too complimentary to everyone. I like the edge that Kimmel brings. You know, you never know what he's gonna say.
Yeah,
He's just polite enough.
Yeah. And I like them both. I think that Jimmy Fallon, what Jimmy brings is, I feel he performs more, you know, like he does the songs, he does those sorts of things, while Jimmy Kimmel, I think, just does more of like a comedy aspect of it. Right. Stephen Colbert is funny. I think he's more politically kind of more of that Daily Show persona a little bit. Stephen Colbert is the one I like most. I don't watch any of these late night shows. I only see clips if they go viral on social media, and then I watch them there. Jimmy Fallon's too amused with himself.
He has this fake laugh that he does after someone. Yes. Oh, it's not funny, and we know it's a fake laugh. It's not. It's very contrived, and it's like cringeworthy to me.
I think that's the SNL in him, because SNL people do that all the time during their skits. They'll start cracking up, and I'd be like, "It's not that funny," and you laughing doesn't make it funnier.
No,
in my opinion.
No,
I don't think so. But I'm still interested to watch. Again, I like the Oscars. I'll have it on. Yeah, Jimmy Fallon and the Roots is.
I do like that.
Awesome.
What he does, yeah.
Yeah, and they do the musical things on, you know, the Tiny Toys or whatever. But yeah, I think that Jimmy's going to do a good job. Who's your favorite Oscar host? Do you have one?
I don't.
I mean,
didn't Ellen host the Oscars once?
Did Ellen host it? I know that like what's his face? Billy Crystal's always mentioned. I think he's been in one of these promos. You know, it's a thankless gig. It really is. I actually kind of liked the no host one. I thought that was pretty good, you know, during COVID or whatever.
What was the one? Was it who was the actor that got basically trashed after hosting it? Franco?
Oh, and Anne Hathaway. They did it together, and it was awful, apparently. I don't remember it, but everyone was like, oh my God, it was terrible. And I'm like, I don't think any of them are really that good. But yeah, James Franco. He's okay. He's one of those actors where I could take it or leave it, you know? Like sometimes I think he's really funny. And other times I think that he's a little too full of himself, just a little bit. But there's a lot of things to watch for in the Oscars. Brendan Fraser for The Whale. Some people are wondering because he's won. I think he won a SAG award. Who? Ah, yes. Yeah. See, I like Jon Stewart. I really do. I like Jon Stewart.
Yeah.
But yeah. So who's gonna win? Is Brendan Fraser gonna win for The Whale? I don't know. He did win a SAG. Mm-hmm. Did you ever see the Banshees of Inisherin?
I walked past it when David was watching it, and it looked really violent. People were getting like hands chopped off and houses burning down. And every time I walked by, some horrible thing was happening to someone. And
so you should love it now that you watched The Last of Us. You're used to it now, right? It shouldn't face you. It's fun. I always laugh. The premise
Are you sensitizing me to violence? Is that what you're doing?
That's exactly. Fake violence. It's fake blood, Kim. But the Banshees of Inisherin, the concept I find hilarious, even though you're right. I mean, but basically it's one guy no longer wants to be friends with another guy. And they've done everything together. Like they went to the pub together. They had their whole rhythm together. And all of a sudden, one of the guys looks at Colin Farrell's character. It's like, I don't want to hang out with you anymore. And then it progresses from there. And I crack up every time, like, because Colin Farrell does it so well. He's like, why don't you want to hang out with me anymore? Yeah. And
I would be the same way, Nikki. Be like, what? Why, Nikki? Why don't you want to hang out with me anymore?
It's so funny, like just. And what would you do? And what would you say? And obviously, it goes to the extreme of getting your point across. But if you haven't seen it, I thought it was really, really well done. Colin Farrell, I thought was great in it.
I would not set your house on fire if you decided that you no longer wanted to be friends. I would not attack you with a knife. There are things there are places I draw the line.
Yeah, well, the whole knife thing is interesting. You should definitely watch it. Did you watch Elvis? Austin Butler, apparently.
I did see that
as far
one.
as I liked him in that. I thought he was really, really good in that. I'm just kind of trying to go down some of the lists of things to watch out for.
That movie bothered me, though.
Which one? Elvis?
Elvis, yeah. I wanted, I guess I wanted more Elvis, and it was just very, it went down his life ended in a bad way, but I just felt like it was too artsy on purpose,
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I liked it because it made me view like Elvis and his death and just kind of the influence of his manager on him in a way I never really known.
Right.
I just want to address Vilma real quickly. I don't want to give any spoilers, Vilma. But can I just give you my opinion? They don't ever really spell out, but I think that they do. And I think it has to do with how you spend your time. Have you ever been, especially when you're younger and you look and you're starting to grow up and you're outgrowing some friends and you're looking around, you're like, why am I still sitting on the couch playing video games with so-and-so? Or why am I this how I want to spend my life? And when you look at somebody, you're like, I'm spending way too much time with you versus doing something else that I want to do. That's what I think. I think it's an assessment of life. But again, they don't. The guy does give him the speech. I'm brain farting on the guy's name. He's an amazing actor. They were in Bruges together. But he does explain, but not clearly, I guess. But it's quite dramatic. I will say that movie. I didn't think I'd like it, but I really did like it, and it gives you a lot to think about. Have
you ever cut a friend loose?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. In high school. No, in high school. And sometimes I talk to my daughter about this. In high school, I was friends with a girl and we got along great. And then we would fight and bicker all the time. And we had what I still to this day consider one of my most mature conversations, especially for my age, where we looked at each other and it's like, I don't hate you, but we don't get along. I'm not going to, we just shouldn't hang out anymore. And that was it. I never, wished her ill will. We didn't talk crap about each other. It was just like, why are we hanging out when we fight so much about nonsense?
Yeah.
And so, I told my kids, I'm like, you know what? You know your enemies as long as you know your friends sometimes. So, cut ties.
I had a friend that I was friends with in junior high and high school. And then our 20s came and I'm still friends with her, but I don't know why, because I didn't really care for her personality. I just did not like her, but I was friends with her because we had always been friends. And so it was, how do you cut someone loose when it's like you have this history together, but you really don't like them? And then she did a series of things like pressured me into having a Tupperware party. And then, and then
you suckered into the MLMs, huh?
Got married, but all she was talking about was the stuff she was going to get and the furniture that she was going to put in her new house. And she wasn't focused on the love and the marriage and everything. And I thought, why am I friends with this person? I've never she's always been about the material and about the stuff and about the me. So I just stopped that friendship. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever done because it felt rude. It felt like I was hurting someone's feelings.
Yes, exactly.
But there are a limited amount of minutes in the day. And so why do you put you put this whole should on yourself? I should do this because it's appropriate. I should do this because it's polite. And then finally you get to the point where you're like, enough with the shoulds. What do I want?
Life is way too short for the shoulds.
Yeah.
I will say this. It seems easier as you're older because you're just like, oh, I'm so busy. But there are people that I have known for sometimes almost as long as some of my oldest, dearest friends, but I have never been close with because there is something about them. I kind of keep them at arm's distance. I wouldn't say I'm a great judge of character, but I definitely know whether or not we're going to mesh well. And I just purposely keep my distance from some people, even if they may be in my kind of group of friends. We'll hang out. I'll be pleasant. I'll chit chat with you till the cows come home, but I'm not going to call you up. I'm not going to trust you with personal information or things like that. Because especially women, that there's some people that they just hang out with you because they want to know your dirty laundry or whatever. They're not really your true friend, and they can just kind of kick rocks. But again, Banshees of Inisherin, I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. It's funny, but again, Colin Farrell, his just not understanding just is so funny to me. And it's not a comedy, but it's not exactly like a horror. I mean, Kim's describing it like they're cutting off all kinds of things. There's a reason for the loss of limbs. It's kind of funny. It's a bit dramatic, but anyways. All right, let me do a couple more thank yous. Severin Shot, $4 super sticker. Thank you, thank you.
We're not going to cut you loose. We'll keep you around.
No, we're not. $10 from Scott. Mo again, $2. Joe with $10, and Wes with $10. Thank you guys. We appreciate the support. Again, click that thumbs up button before the show ends. It helps us out. Again, all of the details are in the show notes of how you can support us. Patreon, PayPal, email. My email address if you want to sponsor a newscast or any part of the show. Thank you to people that have been reaching out and asking more questions about that. Pick up some merchandise from the shop. Have a great weekend, guys. Stay dry. If there's any pictures or anything you want to share so Kim can have them in her news, send them along as well, because it's crazy out there and more storms are coming. This is not the end of it. I think we have another storm coming on Monday. And that's when we'll talk again. Bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're all so the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow.